All right. So, hey, Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am very well. Upset that it's raining. I know people want to watch the game, so I guess they can't watch it outside and tailgate.
Right. Yes, it was raining this morning, so I'm gonna see what it's gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna see if it stays raining or if it's gonna the sun gonna come out.
Okay. Well, I know this has been long overdue for us to do a part two to your first interview, so let's get right into it. So how have you been since our first interview?
I've been good, right? I've been good. I think when we first talked, I was still moving around, right? Like the United States, going from state to state and trying to, see all of the problems all over and help families. But since we've talked, really grounding in Durham, North Carolina, where I currently am, and so that I think has been the biggest shift is really being super like hyper focused in regards to the county and the state actors right here on the ground here in Durham.
Okay, and for those who don't know you and haven't heard our first podcast or seen you on social media, what would you tell people about Operation Stop CPS and about yourself as far as being the face of Operation Stop CPS?
Yeah, so my name is Amanda Wallace. I'm the founder of Operation Stop CPS. I'm a former CPS investigator in the state of North Carolina. I was an investigator for 10 years, right? And so I saw like what was happening in the system around 2021, like because I started to speak out and my voice became like a threat to the system.
Mm,
That when I said that families needed to understand what was happening and this just doesn't make sense, again, that became a threat. And so in 2021 launched Operation Stop CPS to give families knowledge. And originally that was with the Respond and Power Guide. And like again, why is it that CPS is just has the power to knock on people's door and take their children away and ask people a whole bunch of questions? It's because people don't understand their rights, that they shouldn't answer the questions. And so that was like the quick fix, right, to a problem that I was seeing, right, like firsthand. But shortly after launching Operation Stop CPS, really saw the magnitude of this problem and that children were being ripped from their families' hands every single day, multiple times a day, every couple of minutes, a child is ripped from their family. And so being able to see that firsthand is what has evolved Operation Stop CPS as on the front lines of this fighting to reunify children with their families. And so we do that through our change campaigns, which is individual to individual families, right? And
mm,
so like depending on what is happening with that family, that could look like court watching and showing up on the ground. That
mhm.
can look like helping families simply understand what's going on with their case, right, through our change campaign. But and also helping families understand that this system that they are a
Mhm.
part of, that they are a part of a larger system, right, of oppression,
Yeah.
and helping people like breathe through that for a second and understand like that abolishment of this system is what has to happen, but we must believe that abolishment has to happen by giving voice to people who are being impacted by this system, not the people that this system tries to portray as the problem, or the people that they're protecting is usually these white children that have been abused, and all of those things. Like, no, this system is impacting families who are in poverty, who are holistic, who are just living a life as African people in this United States of America. And so, Operation Stop CPS became political very quickly, right? Because
Yeah.
understanding that this system is political. And if we're not going to talk about it in that context, then we're going to keep talking about reforming it and making it better. But what we need to be talking about, right, is abolishment, and how do we defund this system and get it to the communities? How do we demand that children are coming home, and how do we see these state actors as simply actors, right? And I come from
Mm-hmm.
that place of being an actor, a state actor for 10 years, right? And so
Yeah.
understanding that we have to like unveil this system, and the people who are working in this system have to stop working in this system, or there will always be more families, you know. And I always think about this, and when I was even thinking about us having this conversation, Mache, like it was a full circle moment for me, like of
Yeah.
having this conversation with you, because it that knock is so close and we don't even know. And like more people need to understand that, and it is not just who we think who it could be. It could be any of us, and we got to understand it.
Yes. And just for those people who don't know, how does the family policing start? Like as far as, is it always a mandated reporter, or is it sometimes other people?
Yeah, it's funny, like the whole mandated reporter. I think everybody thinks they're a mandated reporter at this point, right? Everybody thinks they have to
Yeah.
report to DSS. But it does start with that person that thinks that the system is the answer. The person that picks up that phone and makes the report. The department has no authority over a family unless, that's what the law, right?
Hmm.
Unless a report it comes in and it alleges abuse, neglect, or dependency. And so that person that picks up the phone, that's who starts it. That's who starts the trickle down effect. And then if that the person that picks up the phone is called the intake, right? The intake social worker, and they screen that in, they listen to what the person is saying to try to make it fit into abuse, neglect, or dependency. They're supposed to screen it with somebody. But if it's screened in, that person then passes it on to an investigator who is trained to go out to a home to try to find what it is that this person has reported. So that's how it gets started. Yes, with that call.
Okay. And as far as like for percentage wise, do you see just from your experiences, as far as being in Operation Stop CPS and as being a state actor, would you say more of the percentage was mandated reporters, like the teachers or social workers who saw these issues, or was it coming in from someone just anonymously calling in?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the teachers, these mandated reporters is what we were seeing in North Carolina. Mandated reporters are the number one, like in regards to reporting these school
Mm,
systems, right? The school, I think, the school personnel is number one. Law enforcement is number two, because the system is very intertwined in regards to law enforcement and policing. And so yeah, it was these mandated reporters, the people that train with the system and that the system trains.
okay. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Like you said, everybody thinks they're a mandated reporter, but where there's some borderline in between, like this is not your job, this is something that you shouldn't be reporting, and okay, this is your job. Like, is there a fine line? Does like any state really depict the boundary between the two?
No, I don't think that any state actually, depicts the boundary, because I think that's what they want. They don't want people
Mm,
thinking about what it is that they could do to actually support this family, or what they could do to just solve the problem that's in front of them, right? They want
yeah,
people to believe that the system is an answer, as if you call CPS because, or you call, let's change our word, we call the family police, right? Because a family is without food. You
mm,
think that that family is then gonna get some groceries or something, or some food stamps from the system, but realistically, if this parent is unable to make food appear for the system in that moment, that child could go into foster care, and then they would give the foster parents funds, right, to be able to take care of this
yeah,
child, versus actually giving the the family the money and they could just buy the food, right? And so I think we have this understanding of what we think is going to happen that is actually not happening.
yeah. I feel like that's one of the biggest things. Like, you're taking away from the families, but you're not pouring into the families,
Mm-hmm.
and it just becomes a repeated cycle. Because if that family was able to say, oh, the Department of Social Services or whatever it's called in that particular state,
Hmm.
they were able to assist me. Don't you think that their rate of return on seeing healthier and happier families within the community would be there? And I wonder, it's like, I don't know what's the disconnect. Like, is there something like, do some of the social workers or like just the people who are heading these departments, do they feel entitled to just take over, or is it just something like psychologically? Because I mean, I don't know, I've never been a social worker, don't
Hmm.
have any background, don't have really too many people in my family who are social workers, so I'm just trying to at least give them some type of grace, like, okay, maybe there's some type of good in the situation that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it goes to that training. It's
Mm,
down to the training to like college. I mean, you think about the fact that the system is an institution in itself, right? And so
mm-hmm,
like before you even get trained specifically in like the child protection system or whatever, like you are trained to think in like as an institution that protects itself, protects it, right? And so if you are in college, if you go to the mandated trainings that the department has for you to learn your job, you are learning in that moment what to look for with abuse. You are learning in that
yeah,
moment what to look for with the neglect, and you are so like it's in you to think that that is what you are doing, and you are protecting something, right? And so what we have to keep telling and showing though to people that work inside the system is that there is so much harm that is happening in this system that there is no protection that is happening, right? And so
yeah,
like every time, like you'll see, like every time that there's some type of reform or something happens, what do? They train the social workers more. They train them. Is because like you control somebody's mind, you control them, right? You control how they
mm-hmm.
think. And so like I'll talk to a lot of families and they're like, the social worker is lying. Like this is what she and or she said this and she said that, and it's just like, yeah, like that shit. My bad, but like yeah, like
That's
it
fine.
is. It is like it is a culture on the inside, right? Like when I launched Operation Stop CPS, like people can't like talk. Like I'll run into a social worker that I've known, and they're like, I feel like we're not supposed to like each other. Like I don't understand what we're supposed to do, and it's like
Like
it's
this
on.
beef.
Right, like it's like it is a understanding that you either inside or you with us or you outside and you're not. And so like I think that that goes to like again that training and that the fact that we have to humanize, like right, we have to humanize like the fight, and help people see that you can't destruct or destroy another family just because your paycheck is what helps your own family, right? And keeps like it's that corporate loyalty.
Do you think that some social workers are in a state of disbelief now that this is becoming so prominent, and now it's like fight or flight, and they're choosing to act certain way because it's their job, like you said, and then turn around, if it were something that were to happen to them, then they would totally act totally different when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
certain situations.
Yeah, because I think even when you see somebody else going through it, when it like happens to you, like it's like, oh, now I get, like now I believe, you know what I mean? Like now I get it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that, but I do think that more social workers inside of the system are seeing the problem. I think that we have to continue to push that into people's faces. Like here in North Carolina, I mean, there is it's a shortage like of so like people that are willing to do this. One, because you can go do something else, like literally
Yeah.
you can go and work at a call center. You can go and work somewhere else and not inflict this harm onto families. But it is
Yeah.
again, it is culture though. Like I was at this county commissioner meeting, and two of the county commissioners use language like I cut my teeth in CPS, right? Like so, like it's the
Mm.
growing up in a system, like literally, like you know what I mean. And so that is what we have to unlearn and decolonize.
So, shifting from you being on the inside, seeing those things, when formatting Operation Stop CPS and creating the Respond and Power Guide, what are some things that you were thinking about when you put in there, and just saying that these are the forefront, like as far as a family, like your holy grail of just in case something happens, how are you going to be able to combat the system?
Yeah, so that the one thing definitely want people to understand is that you don't have to open your door for CPS and let CPS inside of your home. And that, to say less, that is written in the responding, say less. And anytime you're in doubt, do not speak. Like, just be quiet. If you don't answer them, they don't have the language, or they don't even know have the information. And then again, language, a lot of times when people from like the state or the government are speaking, they speak their own language in terms that people don't understand. And so that's why in the Respondent Power Guide, it has language. Like, what does case closure mean? Like, what does that actually mean? What is a safety assessment? What is a non-secure? Like, what is the, again, like understanding what that language is. And then also like, what is the law, right? What are like just some common like things that you can say that say, hold up, like, I understand here locally y'all don't understand the law, but like this has been decided, like that I have my
Yeah.
right. Like these are the rights that I do have. I don't have to speak to you. Like I have a right, like to raise my child and to rear my child, like those types of things. And that as soon as CPS like knocks on your door, like the only information you should be gathering is, again, who is the social worker, who is their supervisor, who runs this agency. Like, you need to be getting ready, right, to engage with these people in a position of power. And what are the
Mm-hmm.
allegations? Like, literally at the point of initiation, the only thing that this department has are allegations from somebody, right? That they're not even going to tell you who called, right? But
Yeah.
lots of times, if they just read you the allegations verbatim, you can figure it out, right? Because you know
Yeah.
people that are in your life, right? And so, like, what are the allegations? And then you and your family and your support, right, need to go inward before you go outward talking to anybody. Like, you need to be going inward. One, can you get an attorney? Like, let's get an attorney on board ASAP, right? But what are these allegations? Why is there a government agency, right, coming and asking me about it, right? And then how am I
Yeah.
going to like fight like against it, right? And so, like, again, if we have an attorney, your attorney should be the one communicating with the department. And also the Responding Power Guide was an understanding that everybody doesn't have access to legal representation, right? Like, that's just
Mm-hmm.
not, like, especially when it comes to family defense in this family policing realm. And so, like, how do you strategically get these people out of your life, right? And again, you only should be addressing the allegations. That is it. And understanding, like, again, this is the government. Don't be still, if you addressing the allegations, don't be talking to these people like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes or no. That's it. Like, yes, no, yes, no. And that they should not be talking to your children alone, most definitely. Like, if they might go to the school. Like, again, just like, this was the Responding Power Guide, was the understanding that people needed to stop talking, like, stop talking, and to see the state agency as the government, as people who the law protects you from having engagement with, especially for the root of the foundation, which is your family. Like, we have to see it this way. If we do not see it this way, then we'll always think that they're coming to our house to protect our kids and give us some services and blase, blase, blase. Like, no, they are there to rip families apart for profit. Children are a profit to this system.
Yeah. That's literally going through the Responding Power book when you initially sent it to me. I didn't know half of the information that was in there. Like I
Mm.
said, I had no interaction with anybody who was a social worker in our family. So I really didn't get that understanding from them. And the one thing that you mentioned is that people need to be quiet. I feel like it's like when you're in trouble with mama, daddy, whoever growing up, you want to be able to explain your whole side of the story. I didn't do this stuff.
Right.
But in this situation, it's like we got to revert back and you got to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So in that situation, I know a lot of people, it's hard because like you want to be able to explain your side of the story. Um, but it's not always good in those aspects, especially when they're just using any little thing in every little thing against you. Um, it's really hard. So in moments where people have infants or people who are their children who are nonverbal and they're utilizing people not utilizing the system is utilizing that as a way to create their own narrative. How does that family use that disadvantage to be able to, I guess, when going to court or anything, how can they use that like as a way to support that this is unconstitutional or this is not fair because the child cannot speak, the child cannot say anything for themselves?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the fact of a child being nonverbal speaks to their age, and the fact of these being like precious moments, right? That that parents and children are missing, and the person that speaks for like the child is their parent, right?
Yeah.
And like that is who like speaks for the child, especially when that child is nonverbal. Like this child has just come from like their parents, right? And that like
Mhm.
again coming back to that tribe mentality, and this is our village mentality. Like no, like parents speak for their children. It's, again, if they're nonverbal, they should like the voice of the parent should be even louder. It should
Mm.
be even louder, right? Because nobody else, they're like these guardian ad litems that's supposed to speak for the child. There is no way. There is no way if the child has never spoken a word that you know something about what this child wants. Like, but over the parents who for 9 months prior to this birthed this child, grew this child, and spoke to this child. There's no way that this other person could speak for this child. So I think again, it is our language and what we argue in court and in these child and family team meetings, again, to be able to put the voice of the families to the table.
Okay. So as far as with Operation Stop CPS, I know that there's a lot of moving parts helping different families. What family so far, especially from the beginning of your start with Operation Stop CPS until now, has been the most effective, or like it's like you knew that what you were doing was right, like created that momentum or created that change that you saw within society that you didn't know would have been done if you weren't doing this type of work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that there are several that I think that again is based on individual situations, what you have or
Mhm.
the tactics, right, that you have to use in order to do it. Like I think that when I think of Miss Sellers, right, in Kentucky with Zephaniah, I think that in
Mhm.
that situation, the video, the media, right, to be able to show and help people visualize what is actually happening, right? I think that that helps so many people understand what family policing is. Yeah, I definitely think that it helped people understand what it was, and it gave a face and like again a visual to children being ripped from their families' hands at the hospital, right? And so
Mhm.
again, I think from a like a national standpoint, I think that that was a like success in regards to on the ground, hyperlocal in Durham. um we've been building power is like again our strategy in regards to these kids, like when we're working with families. And so it is not just thinking about individual cases, right? It is how these stories or these individual families come together to build a bigger narrative, right? And
Mhm.
so like but what we do the same in these cases is helping families understand what's happening in their own case, right? So like understanding from beginning to end, petition, non-secure, adjudication, all of those things. What is the order supposed to look like? Who is your judge? Who is your attorney? Like those are the techniques that we use. Also understanding who the people in positions of power are in the local county commissioners in the city and DSS, and having families understand who these people in positions of power are in these local places as well. And then also thinking about, because what has to happen on the other side is healing and movement, because it's a lot of energy for somebody to take your child, right? It's a lot, right, that's in the body, that's stored in the body, and all of those things. And so how do we move also through that to be able to keep it, be ready for the war and for the battle? And so those are, like, again, the key components of like shifting narrative by using individual like families. When we started in Durham, we started with 3 families in 2022, Alexis,
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, and Bashira. And so in 2023, we are gearing up to start battling again. But from 2022, right? Alexis, her children are home. Bashira, her daughter Issa, is home, and so Kelly is still fighting. And so continuing to continue to push up against this system with families.
Okay. I see that there's, like you said, there's no cookie cutter like template for someone to use in these situations. And I think that nowadays, since this has become so prominent, um, a lot of people are trying to look at other families as blueprints when your situation is very different from each other, especially with being on social media. Um, we can get the impression like, oh, so and so may have done this and that in their case, and that may not be the case. Um, what what are some words of encouragement that you usually tell families when going through this process and they may get like hopeless or they may feel like they want to give up?
Yeah, like you're not alone. Right, is right, you're not alone. Thinking about, when we think about social media is a beast in its own, but social media is also good with connecting with families who are also fighting this fight, right? And so finding community, right? Like find the community of people that will understand when you're just having a bad day, right? Or because, just simply because you don't have your child. Like that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
when you're feeling like again, this hopelessness is sometimes because you get these messages from society as if you're supposed to have it together or you need to be doing something differently. But realistically, parents simply just need to like sit in stillness sometimes, right? And just be
Mm-hmm.
okay with not being okay, because somebody has kidnapped your child, and that's unnatural. Like, you know what I mean? And so if people are having like a bad day, just and it's okay, right? Again, it's just it's okay. But just knowing that like it happens differently for everybody. It happens at different times. You can see somebody that, you know, gets their child back really quickly. You can see somebody that gets their child back and it takes a long time. But the reality is that it just takes, it's different for every family. And so but what I tell people is that they have to believe. If you don't believe it, then nobody's gonna believe it. The community can't believe it unless like, you know what I mean? And so like you gotta manifest it, you gotta see it, you gotta feel that moment when your child is home and hold on to that. Write it down, journal, do whatever you need to do to make sure that it happens.
Okay. And just for those who don't know, do you know off the top of your head what state has the highest percentage of children in foster care?
I think it's California, but it's just because California is the largest like state or whatever. But it is California in regards to the number of children in foster care.
Hmm. And I'm not sure following that, do you know what state is the next state that has the largest amount?
No, I think, but in regards to size, I'm pretty sure it's like
Text.
Texas, Florida,
Mhm.
yeah, like those, yeah, yeah.
Do you often see that the correlation with those larger states in their laws? Is this something within their laws that makes a lot of children be within the custody of the state, or is it just because it's a larger state, it just happens more frequently?
Yeah, I think that if you look at also culture wise, I know like California is a border state, like in regards to them might maybe taking in like immigrants there, right? Or people who are crossing over, like that could play a factor in regards to the
Mm-hmm.
numbers. Um in regards to like, I mean, I know there's a lot though going on in California, like in regards to family policing and awareness and those types of things. But again, I think that when you have the number of like, it's just more like, what's the saying, like it's just more for the picking, you know what I mean? Like it's just more for this system to come and like take into custody.
And smaller states, you don't really hear too much going on with any of the smaller states or with the rural population. You don't hear about a lot of CPS cases or anything of that sort.
Right, yeah, like they try to keep their like stuff real quiet. I remember when we launched Operation Stop CPS, there's like this newspaper, whatever, here in North Carolina that writes about like CPS and writes about the problem. But when the journalist pitched it to the editor about writing about Operation Stop CPS, they was like, "Nah, we good, we're fine or whatever," because like they're fine
Mm,
with talking about the problem, but like realistically, like when you think about these smaller, you think about these southern states and those types of things. If we get the connection between the family policing system and slavery and the auction block, they never wanted this to end. They never wanted slavery to end, and so it is just the same. Like they don't want this to get any attention. Like they don't want like the funding to the system to end.
yeah. So to combat the issues within the community, to move to more of a positive light, how can communities continue to um, prepare and lay a foundation for having that communal background rather than having those spaces and breaches where the family policing system can come in and take someone out of their community?
Yeah, it's building up the community and like just doing like a needs assessment about what is happening in the community and what are the needs of the community. What I love about here in Durham is that there are so many orgs and so many like people that are on the ground and just doing like the work, and then like understanding how like people can just align, right? Again, like when you said
Yeah.
like cookie cutter or like everybody trying to figure out a plan, I think we have to understand that we as beings, right, and like come with what needs, like what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to organize with other people to do it. And so it's like, how do we then align movements together to make things more unified, right? And
Hmm.
so like when you're thinking about like childcare, right? Like, what does that look like in the community? How can you get space in your community to make sure that there is never a child in your community that doesn't have a safe adult to care for them, right? And so, or like if there is a housing issue, like I know affordable housing is horrible right now here in Durham, but
Hmm.
what does that look like? And I think that we have to understand that it's not always the short term fixes always, right? But how do we build something differently? And that's why like looking at the county commissioners or the people who do their budget in your community is so important, because realistically we have to have a reparations conversation before
Hmm.
like we can like really think about dreaming. Like these funds have to be rerouted to our communities. And so like as we're brainstorming and building, we have to also be thinking about how we are going to like swiftly with the full force of the community bring resources into our community, because we will always get like caught up in this like trying to like get resources like for like basic needs. Like we like
Yeah.
that's the thing, like my shit, like we know what to do, Like, we know how communities should be built. We know that we need food. We know we need gardens. We know we need these things, but like we need the resources to do those things. But yeah, we gotta untangle all of that comes with that.
Yeah, you guys do very, very well down there in Durham. Like the whole community, like outside of seeing what you post on Operation Stop CPS and other community organizations that I started following just
Mm-hmm.
from seeing you guys doing events with them, like y'all have something literally, if not every single weekend, a couple times out of the month. And it's kind of like no excuse where the community doesn't know each other or know what's out there. And I feel like if Durham continues to set that precedent for everyone, whether it's on the East Coast or just around the world, Durham is just definitely going to change how community is built because, like I said, y'all are always doing something and y'all are always supporting each other no matter what, whether it's just showing up for someone and it doesn't have to do with the family policing system, just showing up for each other, throwing parties and stuff for children in the community, having back to school events. And I feel like the more you guys continue to bridge that gap between other states and other communities, you guys will definitely continue to have like that domino effect on people.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you guys for showing up and showing out, especially in moments where people are like, "Oh, I might be embarrassed to go get a free book bag or go get free food or
Mm-hmm.
go get certain stuff." It's like when you see other people, so many other people out there looking like you and receiving a certain like taking the negativity out of it is really what we need to do. And just see that the community coming together. So like all flowers, all kudos to y'all out there in Durham. I know, like I don't know if you guys have like a community mapping type of um system or like back in the day when they had the green book for all of the black owned business and stuff, but I don't know how y'all do it by putting it out or if it's just on social media, but I really I really feel that y'all are doing everything that y'all need to do.
Yeah, I will say I have to also give praise to like the People Solidarity Hub because it is a space
Mm,
in Durham that centralizes, I believe, like organizing, right? And it gives
okay.
space. Like it is amazing to have like again space that you know what it is. Like they got the kitchen, like and equipment. Like when we come to the Black Mothers March, we rent that stuff from and we get that from the People Solidarity
Wow.
Hub, and it takes away like the thought of like those just essentials. Like when we having those events, making sure you have a cooler, like thinking about like those things, and again, just trying to make organizing like easier because understanding like organizing is what we have to do in order to like again unite so that we can push forward more for freedom.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely am glad that you guys have someone who is able to always be there for you. Um, and I heard you bring up the Black Mothers March. I was going to get right to that.
Yeah.
So how did the Black Mothers March come about and what can people expect this year? Because I know we're doing a lot of planning, getting
Yeah.
together, big third March. So,
Yeah, so it actually came together from going to the Black People's March on the White House, right? That's put on by the African People's Socialist Party. Chairman Amalia Shatella, leads that. And being there at the march, marching down the streets of Washington D.C., right, this place of imperial power. Like I was like, we have to do this. like we literally like we have to do this for like
yeah,
family policing, right? And so like because it is so, it's like it's just energizing. Like I feel like we're all fighting all over, but being together with your people, marching down the streets of DC was just again, it was just an energy. And so
yeah.
luckily, Yejide Aramela, President Yejide of the African National Women's Organization, was there as well. And we just talked about it and we were like, man, we should do it. Like we should just, we should come together and do it. And so since then, since, our first march in 2022, we picked Mother's Day because again, we're part of the African National Women's Organization. Like, we get that all African people are oppressed, but we also fight for African women. And so, like, on
Yeah.
this Mother's Day, right, a day that for so many people is a source of trauma and pain, but it's also a happy moment for some people too. And so it's like, how do we, unite on this day to hold space for people? And so again, that's why we picked Mother's Day, and we had our first march in Washington D.C. started at Lafayette Square, marched around and marched back. The second year, we picked a different route, and we marched around a more populated area and like shut down these white folks' Mother's Day, right? And let them see, let them make sure that they saw the sign that said, right, another Black child was kidnapped today, right? And that CPS is genocide, right? Because that is the message. That is what they don't want us to say. And so, but again, the Black Mothers March is an opportunity to bring that message to the national message, to understand and have our demands that we want to repeal ASPA, that we need to repeal CAPTA, right? The Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act. These laws that fund the system. They fund the
Mm-hmm.
system and they make it systematic. And that we are calling for the end of the removals of children in our communities, especially in regards to neglect, because we understand the connection to poverty. And so, again, it is to bring the family policing fight to the national fight to end all systems of oppression for African people. And this year, right, I think for the last 2 years, we have educated, we have helped people understand through visuals what family policing is. And this year is about connectivity and it's about community, right? It is about, like, let's come together. We coming together because we are fighting this fight, right, all over. But how do we
Yeah.
come with our people, with our, like, the people that we are on the ground organizing with, like, to hold space and like talk about what we are doing in different places, right? Like, maybe somebody knows something that being able to pass like knowledge and being just this weekend of knowledge. We're gonna kick the weekend off with the screening of To Be Invisible, which I'm super proud of, like, just to see two mamas from Durham, North Carolina, who were okay with documenting and opening up to show people what this fight looks like behind the scenes, right? And so being able to kick that off, Black Mothers March, with that, to be able to ground us in that, and then being able to, on Saturday, being able to have this community event and people come together, right, to be able to have music and fellowship and food, and then on Sunday we're gonna march. We're going to march, and we're gonna collect that energy, and we're gonna push, right, and go to the White House and make it even louder, to make sure that old Biden or whoever is gonna be inside, make sure that we understand and hear is that Black children are being kidnapped and that we are coming for our children. And so people could go to blackmothersmarch.com to be able to register and get more information about the march. Check out pictures and videos from last year's march. And again, just be in that place, right? Lafayette Square on May 12th, 2024.
Okay. And for those who don't know, it is a community, a free communal event here in DC. So that's not something you have to worry about as far as paying. If you do want to donate, you can go to the website, donate $1, donate whatever you can, donate community resources to help out there. Within the registration, there is a drop down where you can let the organization know what you're able to provide, how you want to help out, or maybe just posting, because it's not always about being able to physically provide something. It's about spreading the word, spreading the knowledge, because if you may not be able to do something, someone else in your community may be able to do something and make a difference within either someone that is going to be present at the march or for future planning. So definitely go on the website and see all of the information that is on there, and kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And on the website also, you can drop down in regards to the sponsors, the sponsorship information. I say that the Black Mothers March banner that's on the stage, right, being able to have like your logo there, right, to say that you stand as a Black organization in this fight against family policing. And so definitely looking at the sponsorship information and how you can get involved.
Okay. So, what are some goals that you have in 2024 for Operation Stop CPS? And maybe some that you have within the next 5 years, because I know 2024, we just got in January. Now we're in
Yeah,
February,
right.
and it's gonna be over before we know it. So, yeah, what do you where do you see
Yeah.
the timeline of Operation Stop CPS?
Yeah, so for 2024, like in regards to like goals and statistics and metrics, I would say like I want to see the reunification rate increase in Durham. Like that's something that I can measure and see. Right now, Durham is the second slowest county in North Carolina, and so again, we want to see that. What we saw was the director of Durham County coming out and saying that this is the year of reunification. It's like it has to be because everybody knows that
Mm,
y'all not reunifying children, right? And so again, we want to see that go up. Also in regards to the removal rate in Durham going down, right? So like them actually coming out to people's homes, we want to see that decreasing as well. Also just seeing more families being engaged in regards to holistic like practices in regards to yoga and movement and meditation, and just seeing more engagement in that way.
mm-hmm,
And then in regards to like five and also we have a court watch program that is here in Durham, and so definitely seeing more law students and people in the community get take this project on as a thing that the community has to do, right? We have to get into these courtrooms and watch, because if we are not watching, these actors just act crazy, and so we have to make sure that we
mm-hmm,
are watching. And so yeah, that's again in regards to 2024. In regards to like the next 5 years, I want to be closer to freedom. Literally, like I want to be closer to freedom, closer to like not having to fight like every day, like for some basic, like for the basics. Like yeah, because I always say like Operation Stop CPS is what I'm doing now. What I really want to do is just be watching kids. Like that's it. Like just being in the
yeah,
community, being somebody that like you can just always call on to make sure like your kids are good. And so like that is again the shift in regards to like Roots, which is our other organization, which is here in Durham, which again our dream is to have a location, a brick and mortar that is a yoga studio, a bookstore, and a place of conflict resolution in our community. And so in the next 5 years, I definitely see myself more in like again in that community work, versus
mm-hmm.
just being on the front line.
Okay. I definitely love that, especially seeing it go from more of a place of being around families and seeing them in these sad times, and then going to more of a healing space, and to know that's where you want to go very early on is something that is really great, especially for the community. This will open up many people to come and be a part of that change, um, for Operation Stop CPS and for Roots. And as far as for the court watching program, you said you guys offer law students to come in and to assist. So do you guys do that with other states, or is just right now in Durham?
Yeah, right now it is in Durham. That's where we're building it.
Okay.
It takes a lot just to like just seeing it on the other side. But just to kind of talk about it, right? So North Carolina is a state where the law says that courts are open. But when we go to court, they close it. And so that's why we started the court
Mm,
watch program, to be able to like show that that's what's happening. And so I think the first thing, if you're in another state, is to see what the law says in regards to courts being open. And then then we partnered with law schools, like in regards to UNC that's here at Duke, to be able to like get into like and have court watch trainings. Like we've had court watch trainings to bring law students out and community members out to explain like what court watching looks like, what you should expect, what you can say in court, how you if you feel comfortable like asking questions to the judge if they're closing court, and then being able to then collect that data to like put it into a document to be able to understand what is happening in court, but with the understanding. And I always like we're not trying to have courts, like, we want courts to be better. They need to go from kangaroo courts to actual courts, like something like that, right? Like, we
Hmm.
want them to actually follow some type of the law. But like, having better courtrooms is not the goal. The goal is
Yeah.
for there not to be court, right? And so, like, with the
Hmm.
understanding that if we were actually watching what people were doing, like, we would realize that it doesn't make any sense, and that, like, there are so many other things that could be happening other than taking people's children away from them. And like, how we need to then, as a community, if you're sitting there and you're hearing what happened, then what are you able to do to like help this family? What can we do as a community to make sure that it is not the child that has to be in the department's custody, and like moving all around and sleeping in DSS buildings, and all of these things, right, that we already know is happening as outcomes of the
Yeah.
department.
Okay. I definitely love that idea. That's something now, as the president of the DC branch for the African National Women's Organization, something that we can definitely put into place. Um, and especially with thinking that that one little thing could be something that could change the trajectory of those upcoming law students and cases. Because if you have someone who is in the field already
Mm-hmm.
and practicing to take on cases like this, why wouldn't that be something appropriate for um, the court to allow? So I definitely love that idea. So going into, as far as self-care, how do you practice self-care? I know you have a busy life, or like I know your schedule book is probably filled from top to bottom. So how do you practice self-care, especially in times where you're able to breathe,
Yeah.
and well, needing to breathe, or just maybe feeling overwhelmed for all of the emotions of a case that you have been helping with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for my self care starting in 2024 is to not have my calendar be packed with all these things to do, because
Mm,
like making sure to have time to rest, that's like just built in. Like, it doesn't,
yes.
we don't have to work that like that. Um but also yoga, right? Like, I live by yoga. Of course, I have to say, like, my wife, right, Miss Twisted Yogi, and it, like, health helped move this energy, right? Like, understanding that we take on so much energy in helping other families, but how do we like take a moment to move our own energy out? So yes, yoga, meditation, like, yeah, all of the above. Walking, just like, I definitely love just being outside in nature. Is definitely what I do for self-care.
Okay. So, moving towards the end of our podcast interview and wrapping it up, um, what are some things that, or ways that people can get in touch with you or get in touch with Roots and just continue to um, monitor what you guys have going on and see how they can help?
Yeah, you can go to our website, operationstopcps.com, to be able to follow Operation Stop CPS and what's going on. Also on Instagram is at Operation Stop CPS. And you can send a DM, or, in regards to sending a message. The best way, though, if you are impacted family in North Carolina, I will say that because we are only working with families in North Carolina currently. You can go to our website and go to Change Agent and set up a time to talk, and we can talk on there. That is the best way to get in contact with me and get on the calendar. In regards to Roots, you can go to Roots, and that's with a Z, ROOTZ.community is our website, to be able
Mhm.
to follow Roots. We also have Instagram, it's Roots Durham, so it's at Roots Durham on Instagram. You can follow us there. In regards to Roots, if you are listening in the Durham area, we have our Unity Circles every first Sunday at the People Solidarity Hub. And so being able to tap in there, and come into community, we have childcare and food, again, on that first Sunday. And usually, again, for the African women, right, being able to like just take a moment to breathe and be in community with each other. And so yeah, that's how we can get connected.
Okay, and I love that. That's something to start off your month and to have a great way for the children to have a community event and just something to look for within the community.
Hmm.
I definitely love that for the community. Hopefully, I'm able to get down there soon to some of these
Yeah.
events because I'm telling you, y'all always popping up and popping out in the community and doing a lot of fun things. And I definitely love the yoga, especially from the March last year.
Hmm.
Um, that was something that was definitely life changing. You never know um, how much energy your body has like built up from different experiences you have going on. So just continue to incorporate that in you guys' foundation for
Hmm.
putting that back into the community.
Yeah, definitely. We believe in yoga and movement, especially for the kids too. We got to get them moving and
Yeah.
understanding that practice as well. Next month in March, Yesterday, right, is coming, and well, not coming to North Carolina, but she'll be doing some political education because we
Okay.
understand that is definitely required. It is needed.
Yes, and we're going to be having the convention next month, so I'll
Hmm.
definitely be leaving that information in the description along with the Black Mothers March as well. So, anything else you want to tell the listeners in regards to Operation Stop CPS, or you can definitely we can wrap this up.
Yeah, definitely support. Again, the way you can support Operation Stop CPS is going to our website. You can go to Invest Now, become a monthly sustaining donor. Those things helps us in regards to when we have to show up and again the county commissioner meetings, printing and doing the things on the ground, going to court. That is again that investment helps on the ground. What I would tell parents that are currently fighting this fight is to keep fighting. Do not give up. Like we are winning. We are definitely winning. Like this system understands that they cannot keep the status quo, but we have to understand that we have to be in a position of power to dictate what happens next, and not just
Hmm.
take the reform or whatever it is that they're going to try to give us to be able to make us go away. We're not going away. We are not going away until we are free. And so like that's like we just have to understand that freedom is the goal. Not anything short of that will continue this genocide. Freedom is the goal. And so keep fighting. Let's continue to fight. And I see you at the Black Mothers March. Like that is where we have to be. Like the Black Mothers March, Washington D.C. We are coming, right? We are coming as a collective to say that we understand that we are fighting all over this country, this fight, but we understand our power when we come together as a collective. We understand that when we come together, we can take it down. This is Amanda Wallace, founder of Operation Stop CPS, and you're listening to Peace of Mind with the Soul Coach.